welcome to the Drexel interview. I'm your host, Paula Morantz-Cohen, and today our guest is photographer Sarah Stolfa. Sarah Stolfa's portrait essay of patrons in a Philadelphia bar won the 2004 New York Times Magazine Capture the Times College Photography Contest. Sarah Stolfa, welcome to the Drexel interview.
Thank you very much.
Sarah, your photo essay about pub life at McGlinchey's, which is a neighborhood bar in downtown Philadelphia, is entitled The Regulars. And these photos, which I saw originally in the Times before I knew that you were a Drexel student, I found very powerful and really quite wonderful. And I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about the people in them and what you were trying to do in photographing them.
The project kind of started on just, I'm not one of those artists that I knew exactly what I wanted to capture and what I was doing and went straight into it. It kind of blossomed into itself. So at the time, I was so busy with school and work that I didn't have much going on outside of that. So I was kind of hit a photographer's block. And a professor here suggested I take my camera to work. So when I started photographing, I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. But after the first time shooting and I got the film back, one of the portraits came out. This one was the first one that I took of Robert.
Oh, I love that one.
And it kind of started to make sense to, the whole project started to make sense, and the portraits really started to speak about the isolation of people at the bar, and how when you first walk in, there's this real facade of like everyone's drinking and having a good time. But I think after a certain period of time, when you start to spend so much time at a bar, that facade gets eaten away. And me being at the bar for so long, I can see that in people, because after being, watching these people night after night, you start to see more of who they really are than what they want to be seen as. When you first, when you're in a social environment.
You had worked in the bar for how long?
I've worked there for 7 years. I still work there.
So you really knew it intimately.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time there, and it's not, one night doesn't really differ from the other. So. And
did you know these people? They're the regulars. So does that mean you knew them?
I know them to a certain degree. I'm not a very chit-chatty bartender. Okay. I pretty much stay to myself. But I know all of them by face, and I didn't know most of them by name until I started photographing them. And even in photographing them, I started to learn more about them. But in that, they're also about the people that come in the bar. I kind of think the photograph started to be like a self-portrait of myself and my frustration with being in there for so long and working there. So it's just...
I think it's interesting when you say that you're not a chit-chatty bartender.
No, not at all.
And so you didn't know them, and so there's a lot of projection here, I guess.
There's a huge amount of projection of that's what I mean about the self-portrait.
Yeah. My
projection of how I feel about the bar and also how I, see people. And I don't talk very much to people, so what is going on in my head is probably not what's going on in theirs, but you never know. But there is really, it's really interesting to watch people in a bar after a certain period of time.
Well, it's interesting then, I guess, I don't know if you want to answer this question, but could you look at each photograph and tell us what kind of self-projection is involved in each one of the photographs?
Of my own self-projection?
Well, yeah, I mean...
I don't know.
Is it definable that way?
No, I don't think it is. I think that what I can say about it is when I do photograph, I try to extend it out as long as I can, the whole process of being photographed, because I want the person to drop that facade of how they want to be visualized,
Yeah.
So I just go very slow, and they start to either forget that I'm there, or they start to get uncomfortable. You can see it in their body language, how they start to tighten up. So I just kind of try to take my time with it.
This guy looks uncomfortable, would you say? I mean, what was the process here?
I know him. He's a stagehand. His name is Art. He comes in the bar. Not anymore. He's actually quit drinking. But he would come in the bar almost every day, and not for long periods of time. But anyways, I don't know what my self-projection of him was, but he definitely, if you look at my contact sheets, you can see the mask start to fall, and So in all the portraits, it's like that. It's usually never the first portrait that I take. And this is a girl named Jerusha. She, I really don't know anything about her, but besides she comes into the bar. But she wouldn't really look at the camera, and a lot of people do that too. I don't know if it makes them that intimidated. I photographed a guy the other day, because I'm still working on this project, who just would not stop moving. He would not sit still, and he would not look at me. So.
And yet these people have agreed to be photographed.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the premise, of course.
Yeah, I'm not doing the spy work or anything. I shoot with a Hasselblad, with just a medium format camera, and the flash is on top, so the camera is probably about this big. So it's very obvious, and everyone knows in the bar that that person is being photographed. So.
Well, that's so interesting, though. There's an ambivalence there, then, because she allows you to photograph her, but she won't look at the camera.
Right.
So maybe that's part of the. I mean, that's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Not sure whether, in fact, she wants to be photographed, but she sort of does and doesn't.
Right. I mean, I don't know why people say okay. I really don't.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say okay.
Especially after the Times, what came out with the Times, because I always give people a copy of their photograph, but sometimes I pick the one that isn't necessarily the one that I'm going to use. Yeah. If that makes any sense. Yeah. But so I was kind of nervous when the Times came out how people were going to perceive the work, because they thought I was doing black and white photographs, and they had no idea what the visual outcome of it is at the end. So I was surprised that people were still, that no one got upset at me about it.
There was no adverse reaction?
None, which is really surprising, because I really think that the photographs talk about a huge amount of loneliness, and that can leave someone pretty vulnerable. But no one said anything negative. Everyone was really actually quite positive about me winning the Times. So.
This one I was very struck with at the time, and now
Robert's
again,
my poster boy now.
Well, I mean, he's got a very interesting, well, I don't know if interesting is the word, but very strong face. But to me, it has a look almost of an, John Singer Sargent painting. It has a painterly look to it, and I wondered if you thought of that, and the beauty of the background, or lack of background.
Yeah, I mean, the decision to blacken out the backgrounds is one that I made, and that's to help isolate them. But also, I really like formal portraiture, and I think it's how I work best. And I think kind of why the photographs work is because it's a very informal place, and it's an informal thing. So then to photograph it in this very formal way kind of creates this sort of tension with it.
That's a wonderful way of putting it. So he was the first that you did?
Yeah. He was the first portrait that I did. I kind of, the first time I was photographing people, talking and whatever, and I was like, I didn't know why I was doing it. And then once I saw his photograph and I printed it, I knew why I was doing it.
You knew the theme, the idea.
Yeah. It helped me. I'm an artist that kind of works through my projects, so it helped me solidify what I wanted to do when I saw his portrait.
Would you say that the idea of loneliness came to mind, or was it more amorphous than that?
I think it's not just loneliness, but I also think there's this kind of exhaustion of energy that happens in a bar, and it's not that easy to say in one word, and I can't try to do that. I mean, it's a social environment. There's a lot of things going on. I don't know what's going on in these people's heads.
Right. If you could say it in one word, you wouldn't need the photograph.
Right. So, I mean, and everyone interprets it in their own way, But for me, there's this huge amount of, there's this false idea that there's camaraderie and going on in the bar, and, everyone's happy. It's like Cheers on TV.
Right.
And I don't think it is. And when you spend so much time there, you can see it like that. And I think when you spend so much time like there, that sense of it changes for you as well. For me, as just being there, not even drinking, being an employee there or being a patron there, it kind of does the same thing. There's this loss of...
It's not cheerful then?
No, that's the thing. It is a cheerful bar. I've just chosen not to show that part,
Okay. It's multifaceted.
Because it is multifaceted, and on the surface it's really cheerful, but you know, when you spend so much time there, you just start to see it in a different way. And I mean, I go to bars myself, but it's not, it's just different. I wouldn't have this outlook if I had it. There's no way I would have made these photographs 7 years ago when I first started working there, or before I worked there.
Right.
You know, my outlook and my vision is different than it was then. Because
of the time spent there, or because of the fact that 7 years have passed and you're 7 years older?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to say which one it was, but you know, 7 years is a good amount of time for change.
Yeah,
so
lived more.
Yeah.
Are there a few more in there that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess this is Shauna, and I always had I hope she doesn't watch the show. we have nicknames for some of our patrons, and she had a nickname, and it wasn't the most positive thing. So I felt a little like I was using her by asking her to take her photograph. But she's a classic example of you know, a girl coming into a bar alone. She comes in alone a lot, and you can just see her. This is my interpretation, but it just seems like she's just looking for something. She doesn't know what she's looking for, but she's looking for something. She's looking for someone. She's looking for conversation or friendship or camaraderie or something. And you know, I don't think she's getting it. You know. Yeah. I've been, you know, seeing this girl come in there for 4 years.
And she hasn't found it.
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah, and that's certainly. I mean, I guess
there's like this longingness for her. You know.
So you knew when you said that the mask starts to fall. Now, so there's a moment where you feel it's off, and that's when you take the photograph.
Yeah, I would like to think I can get it in one shot, but it's not the case, you know. But yeah, I wait for that.
But here, it's something about the closed eyes.
Yeah.
That corresponds to the mask being off.
Yeah, it's just kind of dreamy, you know. I think she's just looking for something that she's not going to find there. She's not going to find it in the Glenchies, you know. And I knew how she would. I had a feeling how she would react under the camera, and she reacted exactly how I thought, which is weird because it doesn't show in this portrait, and it's not the portrait I picked, but she's very fidgety. Oh. And it was very uncomfortable for her to be photographed. So it's just kind of funny to me that she looks at peace at this photo.
She looks at peace
in this photograph.
How did she react to this?
She hasn't seen it yet.
Oh.
And I probably won't give her this one. I'm sure I'll give her one with her eyes open.
But this is the one you like best.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny because people like the photographs. You know, even the one of Art, the stagehand, you know. I was scared he wouldn't like it. I gave him a copy of this one, you know, because it's not the most flattering photograph. But people are very, very excited to see themselves photographed.
They're not unflattering. And I guess what I feel, there's no meanness in them. You know, sometimes I've seen photographs that seem to either want to ridicule the subject or
I'm not trying to
use them.
Right.
I mean, you did say you worry about using, because on some level, I guess there is some degree of using and just taking the photograph.
Yeah, I mean, most people I don't, but when there's people that I'm like, oh, you know, I just got to take their picture because, you know, they're crazy looking or because of this, but, you know, other than that, I don't really have anything to do with them and don't talk to them. But so that's a little bit of using on my part, but, you know, they say okay.
You feel kindly toward your subjects? I mean, would you say
You know, the thing is, I do feel more kindly towards my subjects after I photograph them. You know, there was one guy that I photographed that I didn't like him very much at all. And then once I photographed him, we started talking. And now whenever he comes in, I sit and chat with him. So it's personalized these people more, made these people more human and more personal to me by photographing them, which is just kind of funny because I didn't. That is not what I wanted to do.
Well, it is interesting that you said that in the bar you're more detached.
Yeah.
So the photography is really a kind of intimacy, I guess, a bridge to these people that you wouldn't normally have.
Yeah.